Captain Marcus Chen stared at the distress beacon flashing on his ship's display. The signal came from the outer rim of the Kepler system, where no civilized species should be traveling. His cargo hauler, the Iron Will, was already 3 days behind schedule, but something about the beacon's pattern made him pause. The signal wasn't standard galactic emergency code. It pulsed in a rhythm he'd never seen before, almost musical in its complexity. Marcus had been running solo cargo missions for 12 years. Ever since humanity joined the Galactic Trade Federation, he'd learned to trust his instincts, and right now they were screaming at him to investigate. "Computer, plot a course to the beacon's location," he said, settling into his pilot's chair. "Warning. Deviation from planned route will result in cargo delivery delay." The ship's AI responded in its monotone voice. "I know. Do it anyway." The Iron Will changed course, its fusion drives pushing them toward the mysterious signal. Marcus grabbed a cup of synthetic coffee and watched the stars shift outside his viewport. Space trucking wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. Humans had quickly found their niche in galactic society as reliable transporters and mechanics. They weren't the strongest, smartest, or most advanced species, but they were dependable. 2 hours later, Marcus's sensors picked up a small vessel drifting in space. The ship was unlike anything in his databases. Its hull gleamed with an opalescent finish that seemed to shift colors as his lights hit it. Elegant curves replaced the angular designs most species preferred. It was beautiful but clearly damaged. Scorch marks covered one side, and atmosphere was venting from several hull breaches. Marcus tried hailing the vessel. "Unknown ship, this is Captain Chen of the merchant vessel Iron Will. Do you require assistance?" Static filled the comm channel for several seconds. Then a voice responded, speaking heavily accented galactic standard. "Please, help. Life support failing." The voice was definitely feminine, with a melodic quality that made Marcus think of wind chimes. He'd never heard anything like it before. "I'm preparing to dock," Marcus replied. "Stand by." He maneuvered the Iron Will alongside the damaged vessel. His ship's docking tube extended and sealed against the alien craft's airlock. Marcus checked his sidearm and emergency kit before cycling through the airlock. He wasn't paranoid, just careful. Space had taught him that distinction mattered. The alien ship's interior took his breath away. Soft bioluminescent panels provided lighting, and the corridors curved in organic patterns that felt more grown than built. The air smelled of something like jasmine mixed with ozone. Marcus followed the sound of labored breathing to what appeared to be a control room. A figure sat slumped over a crystalline console. Marcus had seen dozens of alien species during his career, but this was something new. She was roughly humanoid in shape, but taller than Marcus by at least a foot. Her skin had a pale blue tint that seemed to shimmer in the soft light. Long silver hair fell around her shoulders, and when she looked up at him, her eyes were the color of deep violet gems. "You came," she whispered, her voice carrying that same musical quality he'd heard over the comm. "Of course I came. You sent a distress signal." Marcus knelt beside her, checking for obvious injuries. "What happened here?" "Pirates. Attacked without warning. They took my cargo and left me to die." She tried to sit up straighter but winced in pain. "I am Lyra Lee of the Asterian Collective." Marcus had never heard of the Asterian Collective, which was unusual. His job required him to know most of the galactic powers and trade federations. "I'm Marcus. Let me help you to my ship. We can treat your injuries there." Lyra Lee nodded weakly. Marcus carefully helped her to her feet, noting that despite her height, she felt almost weightless. They made their way slowly to the docking tube. Behind them, Lyra Lee's ship groaned ominously as more systems failed. Once aboard the Iron Will, Marcus guided Lyra Lee to his small medical bay. The ship's autodock ran a full scan, revealing several cracked ribs and internal bleeding, but nothing immediately fatal. As the medical systems worked, Marcus studied his unexpected passenger. "The Asterian Collective," he said carefully. "I don't think I'm familiar with your people." Lyra Lee's expression grew sad. "We are few now. My people prefer isolation. We trade rarely with the galaxy at large." She paused, studying Marcus with those remarkable violet eyes. "You are human, yes? I have heard stories about your species. Good stories, I hope. Heroic ones. They say humans are the only species that will risk themselves for strangers." She gestured weakly toward the viewport where her dying ship was visible. "I thought they were myths." Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. "Just doing what anyone would do." "No," Lyra Lee said firmly. The pirates who attacked me were Vorlak raiders. When they saw I had nothing of value left, they laughed as they left me to die. The Kethmari would have calculated whether rescue was profitable. The Zephyrians would have demanded payment in advance. Her eyes met his. Only a human would come without question. The autodoc finished its work, sealing Lyralay's injuries and providing pain medication. She looked much better, though still weak. Marcus helped her to the ship's small common area and prepared a meal from his limited supplies. "Where were you headed?" Marcus asked as they ate. "Novaris Station. I had an urgent delivery." Lyralay's expression darkened. "The pirates took everything. My clan will think I failed them." Marcus knew Novaris Station. It was a major hub in this sector, though still 3 days away at best speed. "I can take you there. It's not far from my route anyway." Lyralee stared at him in apparent disbelief. "You would do this? Even though it costs you time and fuel? Like I said, it's not far out of my way." Marcus tried to sound casual, though helping her would actually cost him significantly in delivery penalties. "I cannot pay you," Lyralee admitted quietly. "Did I ask for payment?" She was quiet for a long moment, studying him with an intensity that made Marcus uncomfortable. Finally she spoke. "The stories about humans were true. You are remarkable creatures," Marcus laughed. "We're really not. We're just average. Nothing special about us compared to other species." "That," Lyralee said with a small smile, "is exactly what makes you special." As the Iron Will set course for Novaris Station, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change everything. In the cargo hold, Lyralee's belongings sat in a small pile she'd salvaged from her ship. Among them was an ornate crystal pendant that pulsed with soft light. Though Marcus didn't know its significance yet, outside, the stars wheeled by as two very different beings began an unexpected journey together. 2 days into their journey to Novaris Station, Marcus discovered that traveling with an Asterian was unlike anything he'd experienced. Lyralee seemed fascinated by the most mundane aspects of human life. She watched in amazement as he performed routine maintenance on the ship's systems, asking detailed questions about each procedure. "Your people build such robust machines," she observed, watching Marcus replace a worn power coupling. "Asterian technology is more elegant, but it requires perfect conditions to function." Marcus wiped grease from his hands. "We learned early that space doesn't care about elegance. Out here, something that works is better than something that's pretty. Yet your ship has its own beauty," Lyralee said, running her long fingers along a support beam. "There is honesty in its construction, purpose without pretense." She had a way of making even his old cargo hauler sound poetic. Marcus found himself seeing the Iron Will through her eyes, noticing details he'd ignored for years. The way the corridors were designed for efficiency rather than aesthetics. How every system had backup redundancies. It was distinctly human engineering, built by a species that had learned to survive in harsh conditions. On the second night, Marcus woke to find Lyralee standing at the observation deck's main viewport, staring out at the stars. The pendant from her salvaged belongings hung around her neck, pulsing with a gentle blue light. "Can't sleep?" Marcus asked, joining her at the viewport. "Asterians require less rest than humans," she replied. "I was thinking about my clan. They will be worried when I fail to arrive on schedule." "You didn't fail. You were attacked by pirates. That's not your fault." Lyralee's expression remained troubled. "My people do not see failure and misfortune as different things. I was entrusted with an important delivery and I lost it. The shame will follow me for years," Marcus frowned. "That's pretty harsh. What was so important about this delivery anyway?" Lyralee hesitated before touching her pendant. "Cultural artifacts. Items of deep significance to my people. The pirates took them, probably to sell to collectors who care nothing for their true meaning." "I'm sorry. That must be devastating. It is why I must reach Novaris Station quickly. Perhaps I can find information about where the pirates might sell such things." She turned to look at Marcus, her violet eyes reflecting the starlight. "You have been very kind to help me, even though it brings you no benefit." "Helping people doesn't need to bring benefit. It's just the right thing to do." Lyralee studied him for a long moment. "This concept is alien to most species I have encountered. Even among my own people, aid comes with expectations of reciprocity." "Not everything needs to be a transaction," Marcus said. "Sometimes you help because someone needs help." The next morning, they received an unexpected transmission. Marcus was checking their course when the comm system crackled to life. A harsh voice speaking accented galactic standard filled the bridge. "Attention cargo vessel. You are carrying stolen property. Prepare to be boarded." Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. 3 ships had dropped out of hyperspace behind them, sleek vessels with weapon ports clearly visible. Lirelei appeared on the bridge, her face pale. "Vorlak raiders," she whispered. "The same ones who attacked me. How did they find us?" Marcus demanded, but he was already calculating options. The Iron Will was fast for a cargo hauler, but these were purpose-built attack craft. "They must have been tracking me somehow," Lirelei said, touching her pendant. Suddenly her eyes widened in horror. "The pendant. It's not just ceremonial. It contains a location beacon. I thought it was broken when my ship was damaged, but—" "They've been following the signal," Marcus finished. "Why didn't you tell me it had a beacon?" "I didn't know it was still active. Among my people, these pendants are sacred. They contain our family histories, our lineage. I would never abandon it." Tears formed in her violet eyes. "I have endangered you. I am so sorry." The pirate ships were closing fast. Marcus's hands flew over his controls, plotting an escape course. "Can you disable the beacon?" "Not without destroying the pendant entirely. And even then, they are already too close." Marcus made a decision that surprised even him. Instead of trying to run, he changed course toward a nearby asteroid field. "Hold on, this is going to get rough." "What are you doing?" Lirelei asked, gripping her seat as the ship accelerated. "Something stupid. Hopefully." Marcus pushed the Iron Will to its limits, diving into the asteroid field at dangerous speed. Behind them, the pirate ships followed, but their larger size made navigation between the floating rocks more difficult. The Iron Will was built for hauling cargo through dangerous routes. Its shields were military-grade, and its hull could take impacts that would cripple smaller vessels. Marcus used every trick he'd learned in 12 years of space trucking, threading between asteroids and using their mass to break sensor locks. "Impressive flying, human," the lead pirate transmitted, "but you cannot hide forever. Give us the Asterian female and her pendant and we will let you live." "Counteroffer," Marcus replied, switching to an open channel. "Go find someone else to rob." Lirelei looked at him in shock. "Marcus, you must give me to them. I will not let them hurt you for my sake." "Not happening," Marcus said grimly, sending the ship into a tight spiral around a massive asteroid. "Nobody gets handed over to pirates on my watch." One of the pirate ships tried to follow too closely and scraped its hull against an asteroid. Sparks flew as its shields overloaded. The other 2 backed off, trying to find a safer approach. "You are being foolish, human," the pirate leader transmitted. "The female is nothing to you. Why risk your life?" Marcus thought about that question as he navigated through the asteroid field. Why was he risking everything for someone he'd known for only 2 days? The logical thing would be to surrender Lirelei and hope the pirates kept their word about letting him live. But logic wasn't what drove humans. It was something deeper, something that other species seemed to have difficulty understanding. The idea that some things were simply right or wrong, regardless of personal cost. "Because she asked for help," Marcus said simply. He spotted what he was looking for, a cluster of asteroids with a narrow passage between them. The Iron Will could fit through, but barely. The larger pirate ships would never make it. "Trust me," he told Lirelei, then pushed the engines to maximum. The ship screamed through the gap with meters to spare on either side. The pirates tried to follow, but the lead ship got stuck halfway through. The other 2 had to back off or risk collision. "This isn't over, human," the pirate leader snarled over the comm. "We will find you again." "Looking forward to it," Marcus replied. But he was already calculating a new course to Novera's station. As they cleared the asteroid field, Lirelei stared at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You could have been killed. For someone you barely know." "I know enough," Marcus said. "I know you needed help." Lirelei was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft with something that might have been wonder. "I am beginning to understand why the galaxy speaks of humans with such respect. You are truly extraordinary." Marcus felt embarrassed by her praise. "We're just doing what anyone would do." "No," Lirelei said firmly. "You are doing what only humans would do." Novara's station appeared on their sensors like a massive metallic flower blooming in space. The trading hub was built around a natural gravitational anomaly, with dozens of docking arms extending from a central core. Ships of every conceivable design crowded the approaches, from sleek diplomatic vessels to massive freight haulers like the Iron Will. Marcus had visited Novarus many times. But he noticed Lyra Lee watching the station with obvious nervousness. Her pendant had been silent since they escaped the pirates, but she still touched it frequently, as if checking to make sure it was still there. "Have you been here before?" Marcus asked as they joined the queue for docking clearance. "Never. My people rarely travel to such places. Too many strangers, too much chaos." Lyra Lee's violet eyes tracked the movement of ships around them. "Asterians prefer controlled environments. Novaris can be overwhelming," Marcus admitted. "But it's also where you're most likely to find information about those pirates. The black market here sees everything that gets stolen in this sector." They received docking clearance for Bay 47, deep in the station's commercial section. As they walked through the airlock into Novaris proper, Marcus watched Lyra Lee's reaction to her first exposure to a major galactic trading hub. The main corridor was 3 stories tall and packed with beings from dozens of species. Kethamari traders clicked and chittered in their insectoid language while examining goods from human merchants. A group of massive Hargani miners stomped past, their rock-like skin making the deck plates vibrate. Above them, flying Zephyrian traders swooped between the upper levels, their translucent wings catching the station's artificial lighting. Lyra Lee pressed closer to Marcus, clearly overwhelmed by the noise and crowd. "How do you navigate such chaos?" "Carefully," Marcus replied, guiding her toward a quieter side corridor. "We need to find someone who knows about black market activity. I have a contact here who might help." They made their way to a small bar called the Void Walker, tucked away in the station's lower levels. The establishment catered to freight pilots and traders who wanted to drink in relative peace. Marcus spotted his contact immediately, a grizzled human named Sam Torres who'd been working the shipping lanes longer than anyone. "Marcus Chen," Sam called out as they approached his table. "Haven't seen you in months. Who's your friend?" "Sam, this is Lyra Lee. She's had some trouble with Vorlak pirates." Marcus sat down, gesturing for Lyra Lee to join them. "They took some valuable items from her. Cultural artifacts." Sam's expression turned serious. "Vorlak raiders have been hitting ships all over this sector lately. Bold as brass they are." "What kind of artifacts?" Lyra Lee hesitated, then pulled out a small holographic projector. Images of beautiful crystalline sculptures and ornate jewelry appeared above the table. Each piece seemed to glow with inner light, and Marcus could see they were far more sophisticated than they appeared. "These items contain the recorded memories of my ancestors," Lyra Lee explained quietly. "To my people they are priceless. To pirates they are simply exotic goods to be sold." Sam whistled low. "Memory crystals. Haven't seen Asterian work in years. Your people don't usually trade with outsiders." "You know about Asterians?" Marcus asked, surprised. "Enough to know their stuff is incredibly rare on the black market. If Vorlak pirates have genuine Asterian memory crystals, they'll want to sell them quickly before word gets out." Sam finished his drink and stood up. "Come on. I know where they'd take them." They followed Sam through the station's maze of corridors to the black market district. Unlike the busy commercial areas, this section was deliberately difficult to find. Narrow passages connected small shops where dealers sold everything from weapons to stolen art. The lighting was dim, and most of the vendors were species that preferred shadows. Sam led them to a shop run by a Kethamari called Collector Vex. The insectoid dealer specialized in rare cultural artifacts, often obtained through questionable means. His shop was filled with items from across the galaxy, but Marcus noticed several pieces that looked suspiciously like the ones in Lyra Lee's hologram. "Ah, Sam Torres." Vex clicked in heavily accented galactic standard. "What brings you to my humble establishment?" "Looking for information about some Asterian pieces that might have come through recently," Sam replied casually. Vex's compound eyes focused on Lyra Lee, and his antennae twitched with what Marcus recognized as excitement. "Asterian, very rare. Very valuable. I may have acquired some such items recently." Lyra Lee stepped forward, her composure cracking slightly. "Those items were stolen from me. They belong to my family." "Stolen is such an ugly word," Vex replied. "I prefer to think of them as liberated from previous ownership. The Vorlak raiders who sold them to me assured me the transaction was legitimate." Marcus felt anger building in his chest. "You know they were stolen. You're dealing in artifacts stolen from a person whose people are nearly extinct. Business is business, human. I paid good credits for these items." Vex gestured toward a display case where several of Lyralay's family heirlooms sat like trophies. If the female wants them back, she can purchase them at fair market value. How much? Lyralay asked quietly. For the complete collection? 50,000 credits. The number hit like a physical blow. Marcus had maybe 3,000 credits to his name, and he doubted Lyralay had much more. The dealer was essentially holding her family's memories for ransom. That's highway robbery, Sam growled. That is supply and demand, Vex replied smoothly. Asterian memory crystals are extremely rare. Some collectors would pay double that amount. Marcus watched Lyralay's shoulders slump in defeat. The artifacts were right there, close enough to touch, but they might as well have been on the other side of the galaxy. He thought about everything she'd told him about their significance, about the shame she'd face if she returned empty-handed. I'll pay it, Marcus said suddenly. Everyone stared at him. Sam looked shocked, Vex looked pleased, and Lyralay looked horrified. Marcus, no, she said quickly. I cannot allow you to bankrupt yourself for my sake. I'm not going bankrupt, Marcus lied. The truth was, 50,000 credits represented more than 2 years of income for him. He'd have to take out loans, sell his ship, maybe even indenture himself to a shipping company. But looking at Lyralay's face, at the hope and despair warring in her violet eyes, he knew he couldn't walk away. I'll need time to arrange the funds, Marcus told Vex. Of course, I am a reasonable being. You have 24 hours before I offer them to other interested parties. As they left the shop, Lyralay grabbed Marcus's arm. You cannot do this. The cost is too high. They're your family's memories, Marcus replied. How do you put a price on that? Easily. They are worth more than your ship, more than your livelihood. I will not let you destroy your life for my problems. Sam had been quiet during this exchange, but now he spoke up. There might be another way. The Vorlak pirates who sold these artifacts, they're still in the sector. If someone could prove the items were stolen property and get them returned, the pirates would never admit to theft, Lyralay said. They wouldn't have to, Sam replied with a grin. Novara Station has strict laws about receiving stolen goods. If we could prove Vex knowingly bought stolen items, the station authorities would confiscate everything and return it to the rightful owner. Marcus felt a spark of hope. How do we prove they were stolen? Well, Sam said slowly, if someone were to record Vex admitting he bought them from pirates knowing they were taken illegally, it was risky. If they were caught trying to entrap Vex, they could face serious charges. But it was better than letting Marcus bankrupt himself or allowing Lyralay to lose her family's heritage forever. I'll do it, Marcus said. We'll do it, Lyralay corrected. These are my family's memories. I will not hide while others take risks for my sake. As they planned their approach, Marcus realized something had changed between him and Lyralay. What had started as a simple rescue was becoming something much more complex. She was no longer just a passenger he was helping. She was becoming important to him in a way he hadn't expected. The question was whether he was prepared for what that might mean. The plan was simple in concept but dangerous in execution. Marcus would return to Vex's shop posing as a potential buyer for rare artifacts, while Lyralay waited nearby with a recording device. Sam had provided them with military-grade surveillance equipment that could capture conversations through most forms of shielding. Remember, Sam warned as they prepared, Vex is paranoid about recordings. His shop is probably shielded against most surveillance tech, but this equipment should penetrate it. You need to get him talking about the pirates specifically. Marcus checked his hidden recording device one more time. It was disguised as a standard credit transfer unit, something every trader carried. What if he gets suspicious? Then you walk away, Lyralay said firmly. No artifact is worth your safety. Our safety, Marcus corrected. We're in this together now. They made their way back to the Black Market District, but this time they separated. Lyralay positioned herself in a maintenance alcove where she could monitor the recording equipment, while Marcus approached Vex's shop alone. The Kethmari dealer's antennae twitched with interest when Marcus entered. The human returns. Have you secured the funds for your Asterian friend's artifacts? Actually, I'm here on different business, Marcus said, trying to sound casual. I've got some clients who are interested in rare pieces. Items with interesting histories. Vex's compound eyes studied Marcus carefully. What kind of histories? The kind that make good stories. Adventure, danger, that sort of thing. Marcus examined a sculpture that definitely wasn't from any legitimate source. For instance, those Asterian pieces. I bet they have quite a story behind them. Indeed they do, Vex replied, his greed overcoming his caution. Taken from a disabled ship by Vorlak raiders. The female barely escaped with her life, or so I was told. Marcus felt sick but kept his expression neutral. Sounds exciting. The raiders, did they say anything about how they took them? Pirates love to boast. Vex clicked with what passed for laughter among his species. They described the attack in great detail. How they disabled the Asterian ship, searched it thoroughly. The female tried to hide the artifacts, but Vorlak sensors are quite sophisticated. And you're sure these weren't legally obtained? Some of my clients are particular about provenance. Vex's antennae drooped slightly. Of course they were stolen, human. Do you think Asterians willingly part with their memory crystals? The raiders attacked without warning, took everything of value and left the female to die in space. He paused, studying Marcus more carefully. Why do you ask such questions? Marcus realized he'd pushed too far. Vex was getting suspicious. Just making sure I understand what I'm dealing with. Some of my clients prefer items with clear legal standing. Bah, half the artifacts in this sector have questionable origins. It is the nature of the business. Vex turned back to his display cases. If your clients are squeamish about such things, perhaps they should shop elsewhere. Marcus was about to respond when alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed and automated voices announced a security alert in multiple languages. Through the shop's small viewport, Marcus could see security forces moving through the corridors. What's happening? Vex demanded, his antennae twitching frantically. Marcus checked his comm device and felt his blood run cold. A message from station security was broadcasting on all frequencies. Attention all vessels. The Asterian Collective has filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Trade Federation regarding the theft of sacred artifacts. Any person found in possession of stolen Asterian cultural items will be subject to immediate arrest and extradition. Vex's compound eyes went wide with panic. The Collective? But they never involved themselves in galactic politics. They have no enforcement power. Marcus realized what must have happened. Lyrale had found a way to contact her people, and the Asterian Collective had decided to act. It was unprecedented, but it was also brilliant. Sounds like your stolen artifacts just became a lot more dangerous to own, Marcus observed. Before Vex could respond, station security officers appeared at the shop's entrance. The leader, a stern-faced human woman in security uniform, stepped inside with weapons drawn. Collector Vex, you are under arrest for possession of stolen cultural artifacts belonging to the Asterian Collective. These premises are being searched under Galactic Trade Federation authority. Vex's antennae drooped in defeat. I demand to see the evidence of theft. I purchased those items in good faith. We have a recording of you admitting the items were taken by pirates in an unprovoked attack, the security chief replied. Additionally, we have testimony from the original owner identifying the specific artifacts in your possession. Marcus slipped out of the shop as the security team began confiscating Vex's inventory. He found Lyralai waiting in the corridor, her pendant glowing more brightly than he'd ever seen it. How did you contact your people so quickly? He asked. The pendant isn't just a beacon, she explained. It's also a communication device. When my family felt it activate on Novaris Station, they knew I was alive. I was able to explain what happened through the quantum link. And they decided to involve the Galactic Trade Federation? Lyralai nodded, but her expression was troubled. My people have never taken such action before. They are revealing themselves to galactic authorities for the first time in centuries. The political implications will be enormous. Marcus felt a chill of understanding. They did this for you. No, Lyralai said softly. They did this because of what you did for me. When I told them about a human who risked his life to save a stranger, who was willing to bankrupt himself to help recover stolen memories, it changed their perspective on galactic civilization. The security chief emerged from Vex's shop carrying a containment case filled with Asterian artifacts. She approached Lyralai with respectful formality. Lady Lyralai, on behalf of Novaris Station and the Galactic Trade Federation, I formally return these stolen items to you and your people. The dealer Vex will face full prosecution, and we're coordinating with system authorities to track down the pirates responsible. Lyralai accepted the case with hands that trembled slightly. Thank you. But I must ask, what will happen to the human who helped me? Will there be consequences for his involvement? Consequences? The security chief looked confused. Captain Chen's actions were exemplary. His recording provided crucial evidence, and his willingness to help a stranger reflects the finest traditions of human space service. She turned to Marcus. "Actually, Captain, I have a message for you from the Asterian Collective." She handed Marcus a crystal tablet that began glowing when he touched it. Words appeared in Galactic Standard, but they seemed to shimmer with the same quality as Lyrelai's voice. To Captain Marcus, Chen of the vessel Iron Will, your selfless actions in defense of our daughter Lyrelai demonstrate the nobility we have heard attributed to your species. The Asterian Collective formally requests the honor of your presence at our homeworld, both to receive our gratitude and to discuss matters of mutual benefit between our peoples. Marcus stared at the message in shock. They want me to visit their homeworld, but you said they never interact with outsiders. They don't, Lyrelai confirmed. In 3,000 years of galactic civilization, fewer than a dozen non-Asterians have ever been invited to our world. She paused, studying his face. Will you come? Marcus thought about his cargo runs, his debts, his simple life hauling freight across the galaxy. Then he looked at Lyrelai, at the hope and something deeper in her violet eyes. I'd be honored, he said. As they left Novaris Station together, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a turn toward something extraordinary. In the cargo bay, alongside his mundane freight, sat artifacts containing the memories of an ancient civilization. And beside him stood a being who was beginning to mean more to him than he'd ever expected. The stars ahead held possibilities he'd never imagined. The journey to the Asterian homeworld took them beyond the outer rim of known space, through star systems that didn't appear on any galactic navigation charts. Lyrelai guided them using coordinates that seemed to shift and change, as if the very space around their destination was somehow fluid. Your people really don't like visitors, Marcus observed as they passed through their fourth sensor scrambling field in 2 days. Security measures developed over millennia, Lyrelai explained. We learned long ago that isolation was necessary for survival. Too many species view our technology as something to be taken rather than respected. Marcus was beginning to understand why. During their journey, Lyrelai had demonstrated abilities that seemed almost magical. She could interface directly with the ship's computer systems through touch. Her pendant translated languages in real time, and she somehow knew exactly when system malfunctions were about to occur before any alarm sounded. Is it some kind of telepathy? Marcus asked when she predicted a cooling system failure 3 hours before it happened. Not telepathy as most species understand it. We have a connection to the quantum structures that underlie technology. We feel the patterns, the harmonies. She paused, searching for words. Your people build machines. We grow relationships with them. It was a distinction that fascinated Marcus. Human technology was robust and reliable, but it was also purely mechanical. Asterian technology seemed to be alive in ways he couldn't fully comprehend. On the 3rd day, they finally reached their destination. The Asterian homeworld appeared on their sensors gradually, as if materializing from empty space. Marcus gasped when he saw it fully revealed. The planet was a work of art. Its surface gleamed with the same opalescent quality as Lyrelai's ship, but on a planetary scale. Cities flowed across continents like rivers of light, connected by transportation networks that seemed to pulse with bioluminescent energy. In orbit, massive structures that could only be space habitats moved in perfect synchronization, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. Welcome to Asteria Prime, Lyrelai said softly. Home to the last 3 million of my people. 3 million. Marcus had known the Asterians were few in number, but seeing their beautiful world made the reality of their situation hit home. An entire ancient civilization reduced to a single planet. Their approach was guided by traffic control systems unlike anything Marcus had experienced. Instead of harsh radio communications, gentle musical tones provided navigation instructions directly to the ship's computer. The Iron Will was guided to a landing platform that seemed to grow from the ground itself as they descended. As they disembarked, Marcus got his first look at an Asterian city. The architecture defied easy description. Buildings rose from the ground in organic curves, their surfaces shifting color with the light. Walkways floated between structures without visible support, and gardens grew in gravity-defying spirals up the sides of towers. It's incredible, Marcus breathed. It is home, Lyrelai replied. But Marcus caught something wistful in her voice. Come, the Council of Memories wishes to meet you. They traveled through the city on a transport system that seemed to read their destination from Liralei's thoughts. Marcus noticed other Asterians watching them with obvious curiosity. He was clearly the first human many of them had ever seen. The Council of Memories met in a building that seemed to be grown from a single massive crystal. Inside, holographic displays showed scenes from Asterian history stretching back millennia. 12 elderly Asterians sat in a circle, their pendants glowing with synchronized light. Lirelei, daughter of the fourth house, you have returned safely, spoke an ancient Asterian whose pendant pulsed with deep blue light. And you have brought the human who aided you. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the formality of the situation. These beings were clearly important, possibly leaders of their entire civilization. I'm honored to meet you, he said, uncertain of proper protocol. The honor is ours, Marcus Chen of Earth, the elder replied. I am Therelian, keeper of the first memories. We have spent many cycles studying the records of your species, but we have never had the opportunity to meet a human directly. Another council member, an Asterian with silver-streaked hair, leaned forward. Tell us, human, why did you risk yourself for one of our people? What did you hope to gain? Marcus considered the question carefully. I didn't hope to gain anything. She needed help. That seemed like reason enough. The council members exchanged glances, their pendants flickering with what Marcus assumed was some form of silent communication. This concept troubles us, Therelian admitted. In our experience, all actions have purpose, all aid comes with expectations. Yet you acted without thought of reward or reciprocity. It's what humans do, Marcus said simply. We help each other, even strangers, even those who can offer nothing in return. Marcus thought about all the times he'd seen humans help others without expectation of reward. Rescue workers diving into disaster zones, medics treating patients regardless of their ability to pay, pilots like himself responding to distress calls from unknown vessels. Especially then, he said, anyone can help their friends or people who can help them back. Real character is shown when you help someone who can't do anything for you. Lirelei stepped forward. Honored keepers, I have lived among this human for many days. I have seen his actions, observed his motivations. The stories we have heard about human nobility are not exaggerations. They are, if anything, insufficient to capture the reality. Therelian's ancient eyes studied Marcus intently. You must understand, Marcus Chen, that your actions have created a significant situation. For 3,000 years, the Asterian collective has maintained strict isolation. We have watched galactic civilization from afar, trading rarely, interacting minimally. This policy has kept us safe. But it has also kept us alone, added another council member. And loneliness is its own form of extinction. We have preserved our culture, our technology, our memories, but we have lost our connection to the greater galaxy. Marcus began to understand where this was leading. You're thinking about ending your isolation. The possibility has been debated for centuries, Therelian confirmed. But we have never found a species we could trust completely. Most view our technology as something to be acquired, our knowledge as something to be exploited. He paused, his pendant pulsing thoughtfully. Humans, however, seem to value different things. Over the following days, Marcus was given a tour of Asterian society that no outsider had ever experienced. He visited memory gardens where the experiences of long-dead Asterians could be shared through quantum resonance. He watched artists who shaped matter at the molecular level, creating sculptures that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. He met scientists who studied the fundamental patterns of reality itself, but what impressed him most was how the Asterians treated him. Despite their vast technological superiority, they spoke to him as an equal. They asked his opinions about human culture, human values, human perspectives on galactic civilization. They seemed genuinely interested in learning from him. Your people intrigue us, Lirelei explained one evening as they walked through a garden where bioluminescent flowers created patterns that told stories. You have accomplished so much in such a short time since joining galactic civilization. Yet you remain fundamentally unchanged by that success. How do you mean? Other species, when they acquire power or advanced technology, often lose touch with their core values. They become focused on dominance, on acquisition, on demonstrating superiority. She paused beside a fountain that sang with crystalline tones. Humans seem to become more human, not less. Marcus had never thought about it that way, but he supposed she was right. Despite having access to faster-than-light travel, advanced weapons, and alien technologies, humans still seemed driven by the same basic impulses that had motivated them for millennia. The desire to explore, to help others, to protect the innocent. Maybe that's because we remember where we came from, Marcus suggested. We know what it's like to be small and vulnerable in a dangerous universe. Lyrelai's pendant pulsed with warm light. That may be exactly why the Council has made their decision. What decision? Instead of answering, Lyrelai led him to a balcony overlooking the city. In the distance, Marcus could see construction activity unlike anything he'd witnessed. Massive ships were being grown in orbital shipyards, their hulls gleaming with the same opalescent quality as all Asterian technology. The Council of Memories has voted to end our isolation, Lyrelai announced. For the first time in 3 millennia, Asterian ships will venture into the galaxy. We will establish embassies, open trade relationships, share our knowledge with species we deem worthy of trust. Marcus felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. That's enormous. It'll change everything. Yes, Lyrelai agreed, and the Council has asked that a human serve as our first ambassador to galactic civilization. Marcus's heart stopped. They want me to be an ambassador? Not just any ambassador, Lyrelai said, turning to face him fully. They want you to be my partner in this endeavor, to help bridge the gap between Asterian and galactic cultures. She paused, her violet eyes reflecting the city lights. If you're willing. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the Stellar Harmony, an Asterian diplomatic vessel that defied every principle of ship design he'd ever learned. The ship seemed to grow around its crew rather than confine them, with corridors that adjusted their layout based on need and viewports that could display anything, from sensor data to artistic interpretations of nearby star systems. Approaching. The Galactic Trade Federation headquarters, announced the ship's AI in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. Unlike human ship computers, this one seemed genuinely pleased to be providing the information. Beside Marcus, Lyrelai reviewed diplomatic protocols on a holographic display. Over the past months, she had become something unprecedented in Asterian society, an ambassador to the outside galaxy. More than that, she had become something unprecedented in Marcus's life as well. Are you nervous? Marcus asked, adjusting the formal uniform the Asterians had designed for him. It was somehow both elegant and practical, adapting to his movements while maintaining perfect appearance. Terrified, Lyrelai admitted. My people have not participated in galactic politics for 3,000 years. We barely understand current diplomatic protocols. You'll do fine. Besides, you have secret weapons. Which are? Marcus grinned. Honesty and good intentions. The galaxy isn't used to either one from governments. Their mission was ambitious beyond anything the Trade Federation had seen. The Asterian Collective was offering to share advanced technologies with member species, but only under strict conditions. Technology would be provided to species that demonstrated ethical use, environmental responsibility, and genuine concern for the welfare of others. It was a radical departure from the usual approach of selling to the highest bidder. The Federation headquarters was a massive space station that served as the political heart of known civilization. As the Stellar Harmony approached, Marcus could see ships from hundreds of different species docked at its ports. Some he recognized, others were completely alien to him. Impressive, Lyrelai observed. So many different peoples working together. When it works, Marcus replied. Politics is messy everywhere, but at least here it's messy peacefully most of the time. They were met at the docking bay by a reception committee that included representatives from the major galactic powers. Marcus recognized the Kethmari delegation by their insectoid features, and the massive Hargani were unmistakable. But there were others present he'd never seen before, species from the galactic core who rarely ventured to the outer rim. The human ambassador to the Federation, a woman named Sarah Voss, greeted them personally. Captain Chen, Lady Lyrelai, welcome to Federation headquarters. Your arrival has generated enormous interest throughout the galactic community. As they processed through the station's diplomatic protocols, Marcus noticed the attention they were drawing. Beings of every description watched their progress with obvious curiosity. Word of the Asterian return had spread quickly, and everyone wanted to see these mysterious people who had hidden themselves for millennia. Why the human? Marcus heard one Zephyrian diplomat ask another. Surely they could have chosen a more prominent species as their representative. The response came from an unexpected source, a Kethmari trade official Marcus didn't recognize. You don't understand humans very well, do you? They chose him precisely because he's not prominent. Marcus Chen represents what humans are really like when nobody's watching. The first major diplomatic reception was held in the station's Grand Assembly Hall, a space large enough to accommodate representatives from every Federation member species. Marcus had attended formal events before, but nothing on this scale. The hall buzzed with dozens of different languages, and the air carried a mixture of atmospheric preferences from various homeworlds. Stay close, Ambassador Voss advised as they entered. Galactic politics can be overwhelming even for experienced diplomats. Marcus quickly learned she was right. Within minutes, they were surrounded by representatives eager to meet the mysterious Asterians and their human companion. Trade officials wanted to discuss technology transfers. Military leaders asked about Asterian defensive capabilities, and scientists begged for access to Asterian research. Through it all, Lyreley maintained perfect composure, answering questions with diplomatic precision while revealing nothing of real importance. Marcus found himself impressed by her political skills, which seemed to be developing rapidly. The Asterian collective is interested in partnerships, not exploitation, she explained to a group of mining consortium representatives. We will share our knowledge with those who demonstrate wisdom in its use. And how do you define wisdom? Asked a Vorlak diplomat whose species had been conspicuously absent from recent piracy reports. The same way humans do, Marcus interjected. You know it when you see it. Later that evening, at a smaller gathering of senior diplomats, the real negotiations began. The Federation Council wanted to understand exactly what the Asterians were offering and what they expected in return. Your people possess technologies that could revolutionize galactic civilization, Council President Theron observed. The elderly Zephyrian's translucent wings shimmed with nervous energy. Quantum communication, matter manipulation, consciousness transfer. Why share such advances now after so long in isolation? Lyreley exchanged a glance with Marcus before responding. Because we have learned that isolation is not preservation. It is merely a slow form of extinction. Our culture has remained pure, but it has also remained static. We need the vitality that comes from interaction with other peoples. And the human's role in this? Asked a Kethmari counselor. Marcus Chen represents the qualities we most value in a potential partner species, Lyreley replied. Humans have shown they can be trusted with power without being corrupted by it. They help others without expectation of reward. They risk themselves for strangers. Noble sentiments, President Theron said carefully, but how do we quantify such qualities? How do we create policies based on abstract concepts like nobility and selflessness? Marcus leaned forward. Maybe that's exactly the problem. You're trying to quantify things that can't be measured in numbers. Sometimes you have to make decisions based on what feels right, not what calculates right. The room fell silent. Marcus realized he had just challenged the fundamental basis of galactic governance, which relied heavily on mathematical models and statistical analysis. You suggest we abandon scientific methodology in favor of intuition? Asked a delegate from the Rational Collective, a species that had evolved beyond individual consciousness into group minds. I suggest you remember that science serves people, not the other way around, Marcus replied. The best decisions aren't always the most logical ones. Over the following days, the negotiations continued. The Asterians presented demonstrations of their technology that left even the most advanced Federation species amazed. They showed quantum computers that could process infinite calculations simultaneously, medical devices that could repair damage at the cellular level, and energy systems that drew power directly from the quantum vacuum. But they also made it clear that access to such technology would be carefully controlled. Species would need to demonstrate ethical use of existing technology before being trusted with Asterian advances. Environmental responsibility, peaceful resolution of conflicts, and care for weaker members of society would all be factors in determining worthiness. It's unprecedented, Ambassador Voss told Marcus during a break in negotiations. Never before has a species offered advanced technology with ethical strings attached. Maybe that's because most species develop technology faster than they develop wisdom, Marcus suggested. And humans are different? Marcus thought about human history. about all the times his species had developed new capabilities before learning how to use them responsibly. No, we're not different. But maybe that's why we're good at recognizing the problem. The breakthrough came during a private dinner between the core negotiating teams. A group of Hargani miners had approached the Asterians about technology to clean up environmental damage from their mining operations. Their homeworld had been heavily polluted by centuries of resource extraction, and traditional remediation methods would take millennia. "We do not ask for advanced mining technology," the Hargani representative explained in his species' slow, deliberate manner. "We ask for help healing the damage we have already done." Lyrelai was visibly moved by the request. "Your people built a galactic civilization through your labor. It is only fitting that you should have the tools to repair what was damaged in that effort." Within hours, the Asterians had provided detailed plans for atmospheric processors and soil rehabilitation systems that could restore the Hargani homeworld within decades rather than millennia. They asked for nothing in return except a commitment to use similar care in future operations. "This is how it should work," Marcus observed as they watched the Hargani delegation celebrate. "Technology shared to solve problems, not to create new ones." Lyrelai nodded, her pendant glowing with warm light. "This is why the Council chose correctly. You understand what we are trying to achieve. Of thinking about technology, cooperation, and responsibility. And somehow a simple cargo pilot from Earth had found himself at the center of it all. 1 year after first setting foot on Asteria Prime, Marcus found himself in a place he never could have imagined. The Iron Will had been retrofitted with Asterian technology, transforming his humble cargo hauler into something approaching a diplomatic vessel. But more importantly, his life had been transformed in ways both professional and deeply personal. "You're brooding again," Lyrelai observed as she joined him in the ship's observation lounge. They were en route to the Centauri system, where a group of human colonies had requested Asterian assistance with terraforming technology. "I'm thinking," Marcus corrected, though he had to admit she was right. "A year ago I was a cargo pilot worrying about delivery schedules. Now I'm helping reshape galactic civilization. Sometimes I wonder if I'm qualified for any of this." Lyrelai settled beside him, her presence as comforting as it had become familiar. Over the months of working together, their partnership had evolved into something deeper than either had anticipated. She had become more than his diplomatic counterpart. She had become the person he could imagine spending his life with. "Do you regret answering my distress call?" she asked softly. Marcus turned to look at her, taking in the sight that never failed to affect him. Her violet eyes reflected the starlight streaming through the viewport, and her silver hair seemed to glow with its own inner light. She was beautiful, but it was her mind, her compassion, and her growing understanding of galactic politics that had truly captured his heart. "Never," he said firmly. "Best decision I ever made, even though it cost you your simple life, especially because of that." Marcus reached for her hand, marveling at how natural the gesture had become. "I thought I was happy hauling cargo, but I was just existing. This work we're doing, it matters. It's making a real difference," and it was. In the years since the Asterians had emerged from isolation, the galaxy had begun changing in ways both subtle and profound. Species that had been locked in trade disputes for decades were finding common ground. Environmental restoration projects were being funded across multiple sectors. Most remarkably, several conflicts had been resolved through mediation rather than force. "The Galactic News Network is calling it the Asterian Effect," Lyrelai noted with amusement. "They claim our technology-sharing program is causing an outbreak of ethical behavior across known space. Maybe it is. When you give people tools to solve problems instead of create them, they tend to use those tools responsibly. Their current mission was a perfect example. The human colonies in the Centauri system had been struggling with atmospheric processing on 3 marginal worlds. Traditional terraforming would take centuries and cost enormous amounts of resources. The Asterians were offering to share rapid atmospheric conversion technology, but only after confirming that the colonies were committed to sustainable development. "Are you nervous about working with human colonies?" Marcus asked. "This will be your first extended interaction with my people." "Terrified," Lyrelai admitted. "What if they don't like me? What if I say something wrong and damage relations between our species?" Marcus laughed. "They're going to love you. Trust me." When they arrived at Centauri Station, Marcus's prediction proved accurate. The colonial representatives were fascinated by Lyrelai and treated her with a mixture of respect and warm curiosity that was distinctly human. Within hours, she was fielding questions about everything from Asterian art to quantum physics, clearly enjoying the enthusiastic interaction. "Your people are remarkable," she told Marcus during a break in meetings. "So direct, so eager to learn. They ask questions about things that would be considered rude among most species." "Like what?" "One of the terraforming engineers asked me about my mating preferences," Lyra Lee said, her cheeks taking on a darker blue tint that Marcus had learned was the Asterian equivalent of blushing. Marcus felt heat rise in his own cheeks. "Dr. Sarah Chen. She's my cousin, and she has no sense of boundaries." "What did you tell her?" "That Asterians typically form deep emotional bonds before considering physical relationships, and that I had already done so with a particular human." Lyra Lie's eyes met his. She seemed quite pleased by this information. The conversation was interrupted by alarms throughout the station. Emergency broadcasts began announcing the approach of an unknown fleet. Marcus and Lyra Lie rushed to the command center, where they found the colonial defense forces in a state of controlled panic. 18 ships of unknown configuration approaching at high speed, reported the defense coordinator. "They're not responding to hails and they're armed." Marcus studied the sensor readings and felt his stomach drop. "Those are Vorlak raider ships. What are they doing this far into Federation space?" The answer came in the form of a broadcast from the approaching fleet. "Attention, Centauri Station. We demand the immediate surrender of the Asterian female and her human companion. You have 1 hour to comply or we will take them by force." Lyra Lie's face went pale. "They've found us again. How is that possible?" Marcus demanded. "Your pendant isn't active." "I don't know, but it doesn't matter." Lyra Lie stood up, her expression resolute. "I won't let innocent people be harmed because of me. I'll surrender myself." "Like hell you will," Marcus said firmly. "We're not giving up. There has to be another way." The station's defense force consisted of 6 patrol ships, no match for 18 Vorlak raiders. Reinforcements were days away. It looked hopeless until Marcus had an idea that was either brilliant or suicidal. "Do you trust me?" he asked Lyra Lie. "With my life," she replied without hesitation. Marcus turned to the defense coordinator. "I need you to hail the raiders and tell them we're coming out to surrender. But first I need access to your long-range communication array. What are you planning?" Lyra Lie asked as Marcus began composing a message. "Something that's either going to save us or get us all killed." Marcus sent his message on a priority diplomatic channel to every Federation member species within 3 sectors. The message was simple. The Vorlak Confederation is attacking a peaceful Federation station to kidnap diplomatic personnel. This is an act of war against galactic civilization. Any species that considers itself civilized should respond accordingly. Within 30 minutes, ships began dropping out of hyperspace around Centauri Station. First came a squadron of Kethmari cruisers, followed by Hargani mining vessels that had been hastily armed. Then human ships arrived from nearby colonies, followed by Zephyrian traders who had abandoned their routes to help. "This is impossible," the Vorlak commander broadcast. "We are conducting legitimate recovery of stolen property." "This is Captain Torres of the merchant vessel Lucky Strike," came a familiar voice over the comm. It was Sam Torres, Marcus's old contact from Novera Station. "Marcus Chen is under the protection of the Independent Traders Association. Any attack on him is an attack on all of us." More ships continued to arrive. Within an hour, the Vorlak raiders found themselves outnumbered 3-1 by vessels from a dozen different species. Faced with overwhelming opposition, they retreated to hyperspace, but not before their commander sent a final message. "This isn't over, human. The Vorlak Confederation has a long memory." As the crisis ended, Marcus found himself overwhelmed by the response. Ships from across the sector had dropped everything to help protect him and Lyra Lie. It was unprecedented in galactic history. "Do you understand what just happened?" Lyra Lie asked, her voice filled with wonder. "A bunch of people came to help when we needed it?" "No, Marcus. An entire sector of space just united to protect 2 individuals. Not because of political treaties or trade agreements, but because they believed it was the right thing to do." She turned to face him fully. "This is the Asterian effect, but it's not our technology causing it. It's your example." Over the following days, as the various rescue fleets dispersed, Marcus reflected on Lyra Lie's words. Maybe she was right. Maybe humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't their engineering or their military prowess. Maybe it was their simple belief that some things were worth doing just because they were right. 6 months later, Marcus stood before the Galactic Trade Federation Council for a very different kind of ceremony. The vote had been unanimous. For the first time in Federation history, individuals rather than species were being granted permanent diplomatic status. Ambassador Marcus Chen and Ambassador Lirelei of Asteria, President Theron announced, "Your partnership has become a symbol of what galactic civilization can achieve when different species work together in the spirit of mutual respect and shared values." As they accepted their new credentials, Marcus caught Lyrelei's eye. She smiled at him with an expression that held both love and pride. They had come so far from that first distress call in the Outer Rim. "So what now?" Marcus asked as they left the ceremony. "Now we continue the work," Lyrelei replied. "There are still species to meet, problems to solve, bridges to build between different peoples." "Together?" "Always together," she confirmed, taking his hand as they walked toward their ship.